Powered up, laced up, and ready for a run in the dark. Time to shed some light on these two. It's Hero 10 versus One X2.
You look at me like I'm crazy when I shut my feelings down. You look at me like I'm different. Still you stay cause you feel something real. Get so lost in my moments. Doesn't mean I don't need you.
Who's ready for the knockout round? Insta360 One X2 versus GoPro Hero 10 Black. You wonder if the voice has a trademark on that. Hey, nobody likes a tease. You want to make sure I do what I say I'm going to do. So, let me let you know what this video is about and what it's not about. It is a quick look at a feature inside of these cameras. Internal stabilization, most specifically in low light, for those of us who like to run or cycle in the early morning or early evening hours. I don't know, maybe you like to get up and vlog at odd times. What it's not is a comprehensive look at all of the specs or features or even how to use these. If you're looking for that, I'm going to put some links in the description box below, and I'll put a link up here in the eye bubble if you're watching on YouTube. These are the folks who do a better job at it than me, and they really help me with my buying decisions. So before I get to some background, if you want to skip ahead to the head-to-head low light battle, check the time code in the description box. For the better part of the past 2 years, I have been using this GoPro Hero 8 Black and the Phaotech G6. The Hypersmooth 2.0 on this, groundbreaking, but it just didn't work very well in low light. So you really needed the gimbal. And this has been the issue since the beginning when I decided I was going to start running as a visually impaired runner. And I needed to get out there and get video so I could see what I was doing, bring it back, put it on a big screen, or maybe share it with friends and family. Marrying that new love of running with my old love of the medium of video. What I found was simply nauseating. And that's not an indictment of the folks who were posting videos. It's simply the technology at the time, 2015. People were hand-holding their cameras and it was shaky and you could barely hear them. So what I found at the time was this, the GoPro Hero 4 Silver, this tiny little guy, and the G4 from Phaotech. This little package got me through all of my training runs and first half marathon. I graduated to the Hero 5 Black, Hero 6, Hero 8, even tried the DJI Osmo Pocket along the way, but the little motors on that too small. But as you can see, over time, the cameras and the gimbals just got bigger and bigger. So as I started training for the 50th anniversary of the New York City Marathon, I really wanted to upgrade my camera. And I landed on a runner I really like by the name of Kafuzi. You might want to check him out. Great storyteller, his use of video and music. And he sold me on 360 video. He's been using the Insta360 line for quite a while. With the pandemic shortages, with chip shortages, there were rumors out there that GoPro was not going to release a new camera. So I ordered this, the 360 camera, the One X2. And then all of a sudden, the rumors started to fly about GoPro. A new chipset, new frame rates, and they announced a date, and I figured, hey, why not? Let me upgrade to that too. I had already bypassed the Hero 9 because of the bad reviews, and I figured maybe they'll correct some of the problems in this camera. The GoPro Hero 10 in the mail, and hey, really like it. Started playing around with it, figured it was time to take it out on a couple of training runs. So that gets you to today, these two cameras. And let's start with this one. In almost no light, I began my run at 5 in the morning. Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment. GoPro Hero 10 set at 4K 30 frames per second with Hypersmooth 4.0 turned on. And as you can see, it performed miserably.
Runtime.
Almost just like the Hero 8. Give you a little primer on how stabilization works, software stabilization. The camera needs some light to actually look for those horizontal and vertical lines in the video. It's looking at every frame along the way, and it sees how the frames are tilting in each direction and then oversampling and cropping it in marrying those frames together and giving you a stable image on the fly. GoPro just doesn't do that very well. You can see in several cases where it is grabbing frames of movement, which is that blurriness and ghosting and fuzziness, and this video is pretty much unusable. Can't even edit with it. Now let me let you look at the Insta360 One X2. This is set at 5.7K. Now it's not shooting at that. This is a 1080p version of that because 5.7K is shooting in all directions, both lenses, and giving that spherical look. It performed amazingly with just street lights. And in fact, in several places of this video where I hit almost no light, you can still see my movement and it is still stable. I was blown away. So the One X2 won the first battle. Now time for a little bit more light as the sun was coming up. We'll look at the One X2 first because we already know it does well in almost no light, and it did equally as well in low light. And it was able to capture me as I was running and capture those images forward and back. The great thing about 360 video is it also cuts down on the workflow while you're out doing your event. It increases the workflow later, which I will talk about in just a few moments. But while you're running, this is getting video forward and back, up and down, side to side. You have so many options, and you can even pan and tilt in that video while you're editing it. Let's take a look at GoPro Hero 10 Black. In low light, as the sun is coming up, it still does as poorly as it did with almost no light. It just doesn't seem to have enough for the Hypersmooth 4.0 to work. And I'm perplexed by this because if Insta360 can do it, why can't the GoPro do it? And one thing you should know, there's no way of removing the Hypersmooth when you bring it out and try to put it into a program like Adobe Premiere Pro later on. You are stuck with what the GoPro does internally to the video. So that ghosting and that fuzziness remains, and the video is pretty much unusable for editing purposes. Where the 10 shines is in full light.
Fly around like paper planes, we never know where we will fall. Nobody can see us, still they wanna tear us apart. There's something different about the way we are.
That 4K 30 looks even better on this camera than it did on the Hero 8 Black that I have been using for the better part of the past 2 years. You can even see the pores on my face. And this camera can be set to even higher resolutions, just like the Hero 9, 5.3 at 30 frames per second, but you can go to 60 frames per second, even 120 frames per second. That's not something I really do while I'm running in my races. These things happen in real time, and as a visually impaired runner, I simply want to do the quick capture function. I don't really have time to stop and go through the menus and reset to get higher frame rates. I know a lot of runners in general would not like to do that, let alone running with the camera. Now, Insta360 performed equally as well in the light as it did in the darkness. Of course, it is only rendering out in 1080p, so if there's movement in the video or if you try to crop it in too far, it gets fuzzy and a little out of focus, and you're going to see a little bit more movement. The camera makers never quite seem to give you everything you need. When it comes to the Insta360, it's stable, but very grainy, especially in low light. As for the GoPro Hero 10 Black, it's crispy, even through all of that shake, but it leaves you scratching your head as to which footage is better to watch when you put together your final video. I'd have to give the win on this one to One X2. And just so you know, that stabilization doesn't only work when you export through the app. You can actually watch it internally on the camera right here on the small front screen. The pros of this camera: I can finally ditch my gimbal for those early morning race events. And it shoots in 360, which means I only have to carry this for half the time as the GoPro. Cons of this camera: it shoots in 360. The workflow has changed. You actually have to pre-edit everything in one of the apps before exporting to work on your final product, and it's in 1080p, which means you can't crop, you lose quality. Where the GoPro Hero 10 Black shines is in the light. That's where the Hypersmooth 4.0 really looks good. 4K, 30, 60, 120, 5.3K video. The con on this, the hype and marketing on that Hypersmooth. It doesn't work in low light. And in fact, I would urge you to turn that off if you're going to use this for an early morning or early evening event so you can actually edit with your video later. None of my old gimbals will work for me in low light with the GoPro because the form factor has changed. These cameras are so big now. There's only one out there that I've been able to find that will work with the Hero 9 and the Hero 10, and that's the Inky Falcon. I'll put a link in the description box below if you want to see what some of the reviewers are saying about it. I hope this helps if you're going to do your own early morning or early evening events. Keep doing what you do, and I will see you at the start line. Hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button or the notification bell. It will let you know when I put up the next video. I'm working on one about my long runs training for the New York City Marathon. In the meantime, check out this classic.